Hello, Trevon. I'm going to read through your paper in this video and hopefully give you some ideas for revision. Okay, your paper is How did 3D printing come about and how have its applications grown in the mechanical engineering field and the world? Okay. Engineering is the oil that keeps the gears turning in our world, and as the world continues to advance, so does the technology that is incorporated with making this engineering possible. All engineering fields are battles of trials and tribulations with ideas and theories that do and don't work to solve constant world problems. Testing and evaluating new ideas is done at an instant with engineers today because of the advanced technology that is at hand to them. But what did engineers of the past do when prototypes needed to be made or products needed to be tested before mass production? Cool. Okay. I like that intro. Where I think you could be clearer. In that sense, all engineering fields are battles of trials and tribulations with ideas and theories that do and don't work to solve constant world problems. One of the exercises I've done with my own writing teachers and with students both is going through and just trying to cut out any words that you don't absolutely need, which as a mechanical engineer you might have a good talent at. So like in that sentence, rather than saying all engineering fields, you might just be able to say engineering. Okay, are battles of trials and tribulations. Engineering faces battles. And then you said with ideas and theories that do and don't work. Engineering faces battles to find out what works, maybe, to solve constant world problems. I mean, I don't know that you need to say that at all. I mean, what else would they be trying to solve? I mean, problems in space, I guess, but that's not what you mean. Yeah, I think you just, for me, in looking at your intro, you just want to think about what words do I really need to have here, because although it's like a thing to develop in your writing to be able to use these long sentence structures, which you've used correctly, often, like one of the stages of people's writing that I'm often working with them at the college level is cutting it back because you know how to do like the fancier, bigger stuff. And now I'm like, so pare it down now. Okay, anyway, talking too much. The journey of prototyping and creating easier ways to test products all begins with how 3D printing allows professional or amateur engineers and consumers to make their creations for immediate use or for testing. 3D printing has been in circulation since the 1970s, but the first documented experiments didn't start until the 1980s. Shockingly, the foundation of 3D printing was started in places like Japan and France and was later adopted by American engineers. I think I said this with your rough draft. I was like, this is very American-centric. I'm not surprised it started in Japan and France. They got smart people there, but I don't know. Maybe you mean something else. When 3D printing is researched, many of the foreign engineers that first started the technology have diluted praise and much of the praise is given to American engineers as if they created the technology. Oh, right. Now I'm remembering you got to this part. And I was like, okay. Many of the foreign engineers diluted praise. And the praise was given to American engineers as if they created it. I don't think you mean diluted when 3D printing is researched. Okay, let's take this part. When 3D printing is researched, I don't think we need to say that because we know you researched it, right? Many of the foreign engineers got less praise, period. American engineers got a lot of praise, even though they hadn't created the technology. Again, I'm not trying to tell you exactly how to write it. But I'm just trying to take apart the pieces and think about, from a mechanical engineering perspective, how can we kind of take some of these pieces out and put some oil on them and put them back together in a way that they... This is One of my weirder videos. Okay, the Japanese engineer Hideo something, who worked for the something, was the first to attempt to make a faster way to prototype ideas in 1980. Okay, his theory was to create, quote, a layer-by-layer approach for manufacturing, which was based on the SLA technology, the basis of 3D printing. Essentially, this was just using a photosensitive resin that is polymerized with each other to make a structure under UV light. Cool. One tiny thing, before your parentheses, you need a space. It's looking a little crowded together there. Okay. As well as that guy. French engineers, probably. French engineers, this guy, and this other person. Also involved stereolithography in their studies of 3D printing in 1984, but failed to ever get past the drawing board because they lacked a business perspective within the group. Sounds like me. Finally, the face of 3D printing is an American engineer named Charles Hull, who built on the stereos and the ideas that were formulated by those before him and went into creating the first patent for SLA technology in 1986. Did you tell me what SLA technology is and I forgot? Possibly. But if you didn't, go fill that in. Now I lost my place. Here we are. This patent allowed him to create 3D Systems Corporation in 1988, which is located in Valencia, California, and later produced the SLA-1, which is one of the first viable products that were produced for the public. Today, this corporation is a leader in 3D printing innovation, and still one of the largest 3D printing companies. Charles Hull and blah blah have come a long way since their beginning days, as there are stories of him. I don't know, this is a little confusing, because it's like he and his company have come a long way, because there are stories of him turning the company's UV lamps to different use to cure and allow the resin to settle in the correct patterns to make products without having to buy the expensive UV lights. I think you mean at the time. Okay, and the other part there that I think needs a little cleanup is, okay, stories of him, quote, blah, blah, blah. The parentheses that tell, I'm assuming that's the author of that little piece, turning the company's UV, blah, blah, needs to be outside of the quotation marks. Inside the quotation marks are only the exact words from the source, and outside is the parentheses with the name of the writer. Okay. Sorry. Besides SLA technologies that these people, the French engineers, and that person focused on, there are other ways that 3D printing has been developed. In 1988, the SLS technology was created by an undergrad student at the University of Texas named Charles something. Betsy was the first SLS machine's name. Aww. And this focus wasn't necessarily on product quality and detail. I wonder if that was like his mom. Okay. Too much imagination. Along with SLA and SLS, there was an FDM, which was a patent submitted by Scott Crump, a well-known co-founder of something, in 1989. This technology is now the, quote, simplest and most common of the three technologies, despite it being created after SLA and VOGA. Once the patent was issued in 1992 for the FDM technology, the floodgates were open with the ample amount of possibilities that 3D printing could present. Okay. One thing in this paragraph, the words that you put in your direct quote, simplest and most common of the three technologies, I would say those words aren't so particularly great or interesting that I would use a direct quote for them. In fact, depending on your audience, you might not need to cite this at all. If it really is the simplest and most common of the three technologies, go ahead and cite it, because I don't want you to get nervous about that. But I don't think you need to use the exact words from the website. You can put it in your own words, and then still at the end, you put that little Gregorich or something at the end. Okay, when referring to the floodgates opening, that isn't meant lightly. The possibilities for 3D printing grew and are continuing to grow to this day. That sentence, both of those sentences, are good examples of you using shorter sentences to let your reader slow down and really go along with you. That's good. The medical field was the first area that 3D printing found a purpose in, and it was the area that they found a purpose in. The medical field was the first area that 3D printing, I think you can say that better. And this came as a shock because not many of the 3D printed objects helping wait, and this came as a shock because not many think when I stop and I'm like, what? That means it needs a little revision. Okay, anyway, in 2000, the first 3D printed kidney was created, which is just mind-blowing considering the one-dimensional origin of this technology. The kidney started in the realm of 3D bioprinting that is just creating body parts. This kidney started the realm of 3D bioprinting. I don't know why you have just there. Okay. That often fail in humans and can be fatal if transplants are not available. This can easily be a life-saving solution to these problems, but this bioprinting can be very expensive because of the materials that are used and the fact that it has to be custom-made and fitted to be secure in one's body. Along with the kidney, prosthetic arms and legs have been created for patients to have at their disposal if they want to go that route. The first prosthetic to be created was a leg in 2008, and the benefits of these are that they are custom-made and can have better designs or can be more aesthetically pleasing for the patient. Cool. But on that same note, they are very expensive and take longer amounts of time to be constructed. Okay. I wondered about, as I was reading this, I was like, I feel like it was a long time ago. They were like, we're going to print kidneys. And like, nobody's getting printed kidneys put in their bodies, are they? So what's up with that? Okay, medicine is the only market that 3D printing has gained traction, is not the only market that 3D printing has gained traction in, as there are tons of applications for the technology across all types of fields. Lovely transition. NASA has taken much of the technology that is involved and implemented it into their training and equip many of their rockets with printers that use SLA or something to prototype and create different models. As of right now, small rovers and machines have been made with these printers, but the future could involve printing small communities and habitats on planets like Mars or the Moon to test and store materials. I was with you until we said to test and store materials. Yeah, I think that's another example of when you put too much in one sentence, I was like, oh, okay. We've made small rovers and machines. The future could involve printing small communities on Mars, and then, or the Moon, and to test and store materials. Too much in one sentence. Even small objects like valves, wrenches, hammers, and other tools can all be replaced with the addition of 3D printing, which is such a game changer when tough situations may arise in space. That makes sense. Expanding on the creation of habitats and communities, there was a house that was 3D printed in 2018 and has a family living in it just as they would a regular house. Huh, where's that? This almost seems impossible. The advancements that have been made in the industry have been astounding. That's a specific thing that happened. So you need to add there where you found that information. And again, you don't have to use the exact words from the site where you found that info, but just in parentheses tell us which of your sites that came from. This almost seems impossible, but the advancements that have been made in the industry have been astounding. Other printers that are in the making include a 3D food printer, which began testing in 2011 at Cornell University. That's the one I want. And cars that are prototyped from 3D printers in 2010. The history of 3D printing is relatively recent, but has been filled with many dramatic events that have shifted the way that objects are created in our society. It starts with simple blocks of resin under UV lights that have been changed to printing houses, kidneys, and possibly even food. 3D printing has revolutionized the prototyping world with its efficient and accurate way of creating products that will only make our society better. Okay, lots of good stuff there. As I said, as I've been saying kind of throughout, I feel like the main thing for you to be working on is just finding some of those places that your sentences sort of get tangled up because they go on too long, and separating some of those pieces so that it's a little bit clearer. But nice work.